Sue, as we were talking about what this conversation was going to be about, we wanted to really talk about one of the themes that Sue and I talk about quite all the time, which is the art of giving and receiving. And I want to read a quote, just as we were right beforehand talking to our lovely friends Susan Roderick, and she gave me this quote that is, "The purpose of life is to discover your gift. The meaning of life is giving your gift away." Discovering and giving. And that's from David Viscott. And I think so many of us are always even just trying to discover what our gift is. Another thing that we talk about a lot.
We do. I think everyone knows what their gift is. They're trying to find the balance between giving it away and getting paid for it. So, yeah, but everybody kind of knows what their gift is.
So tell me about, as you've talked about before in different Creative Live classes, the art of giving and receiving. Because I know I personally am an overgiver, perhaps, and have trouble receiving.
It's not so much that you're an overgiver, Kenna, you just don't receive. So
the balance is off.
Yes. I found when I started my business, I learned that left is for leaving, right? So money leaves, right is for receiving. And I realized that as soon as that balance gets off, you're either giving too much and not getting paid, or you're taking too much money and not giving enough, and both will stop the flow straight away. So I feel like I've been trying to teach everybody the balance of giving and receiving, and it's a perfect conversation for you and me to have, because we always talk about this, because you are not very good at receiving, and I used to be not good at receiving. Yeah.
So how did you go about getting to that place then?
Because I was always overgiving. I was never a receiver. And I realized that that works with money, and it works with business, and it works with love, and it works. And suddenly you just constantly feel like you're giving away everything and not getting anything in return. And I feel like I've found the balance. I give a lot, but I've learned to receive a lot as well. And I realized that it's in the way people give you a gift, how you feel. Like I feel guilty when people buy me gifts. The way you receive money and payment for doing a shoot. I would invoice people and feel bad when I invoiced them. I would have feelings in a viewing that my work wasn't good enough and that it wasn't worth getting paid for. I had feelings when I was creating the work that they're not going to like it, they're not going to pay for it, I'm never going to get anything for it, so I might as well give it away. And I would talk myself down in photo shoots. I would, in sales sessions, I never learned. And I just really started to value receiving. So when people gave me anything, I would look at them and I'd say, thank you. And then I would think of what I could give back to them. So I thought it's more reciprocal than stopping it. So if I say thank you, and then send them a beautiful thank you card or a gift, or I give them a recommendation, I'm returning the favor again, and then I realize that it just keeps coming back, and I say thank you again, and then I return it again, and I realize that the giving was easy, and so I just keep doing that, and it just keeps expanding.
I think it was you who told me, because again, I am one of those people that struggles with receiving because of that perhaps guilt from growing up, but that if you don't allow in receiving, that you're actually then denying that person who is trying to be giving the ability to give, because you're blocking it. And that was a really big insight for me. You
know, years ago when I hadn't started my business, but I was a photographer, I met this girl that owned a really huge hair salon just down from my studio, and it was very successful. She would have been about, I think, 32, and she owned the whole thing. And nice. She also had very wealthy parents, and they bought this business, but she drove it and ran it. Like she really deserved it. She wasn't just this rich kid that had been given this great big gift. And they invited me out one night, their group of friends, and I didn't feel like I had the clothes that they wore. Like we were 32, I was earning $400 a week as a photographer, and they're wearing Versace shoes, and I didn't have anything like that. And I said no, because I was embarrassed, and I didn't think I was worth hanging out with this group of people. And they asked me about 4 or 5 times, and I said no every time, just out of feeling not good enough. And they stopped asking me. And I remember years later running into her, and she said to me, you know, we always thought you weren't good enough for our group. And I remember thinking, I always thought I'd go out with them, and like they go to expensive places and they wear expensive clothes, and I don't have anything like that. Like I used to feel like that, and so I blocked all of that friendship and opportunity because I didn't feel worthy of receiving their friendship. And a friendship should come from anybody, regardless of money or status, or a friendship should be, I admire who you are as a person. So you really do have that value system that blocks getting anything.
Well, I really like the way you're talking about, though, the reciprocalness of it. We talk a lot about gratitude. Tell me about gratitude within this context of giving and receiving.
You've got to be thankful for everything that you're given. You've got to be thankful, good and bad, because everything teaches you something. You also have to give unselfishly, which is probably one of the hardest things to learn. A lot of people give expecting something back, and when you expect something back, you give for the wrong reasons. You know, and this is such a hilarious conversation because Kenna's one of those incredible people to have a conversation with, because then she'll say, well, what about altruism? I can hear it. I can hear you saying it because I can hear you thinking the next level, right?
So what about altruism? My question is, because I grew up being taught the values of giving back. And for me, part of giving back makes me feel good. And then I got in this circle of, is that wrong to be feeling good about giving back and sacrificing something? And so it was this constant sort of, is there altruism?
Kenna will be the only person you'll ever meet that actually feels guilty about finding joy from giving to people. Like, she feels guilty about everything. Everybody gives for a reason. We know that. When I said you've got to give for the right reason, give to give somebody joy, but don't give to get something back. Yep. And if you give and expect something back and you don't get it, you need to check that within yourself. Whatever I borrow or lend to people, I don't expect back. I think if you're prepared to lend it to someone, you're prepared for it to be stolen, broken, or never come home. So if there's something that you love and you don't want to share it, then you can say, I don't want to give you this. I don't want to lend this to you. And that includes money to family members. You can do the same. If you don't feel like it's coming back, don't lend it. But to give to get something is the wrong energy to give. I believe true altruism, anybody who gives feels joy, but you can't be guilty for that joy. If you feel guilty, you've actually negated why you gave. Exactly. Because you expected something or you got something and you felt bad about receiving it. Maybe you gave it in order to feel joy. And that's a perfect 50-50. I would say, I gave this, I received great joy, and it's going to keep coming back. I'll keep giving, I'll keep receiving joy. It's okay. It's like I give this much energy into my business, I get paid, I'm very happy with the 50-50. Yeah. I'm giving as much as I'm getting. So
I think that's such a topic that we talk about here, and so many people out there seem to relate to, is, again, valuing yourself, valuing your art to the point that, as you talk about, that you are actually feeling that you're giving more than you're being paid for, and therefore you're feeling that it is equal.
You know, I feel like every client that comes into my life now becomes a friend. I try not to see them again, and Facebook is amazing for that.
Isn't it?
You can stay connected, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like when you give the gift of a photo shoot and they pay for it, you've given an incredible gift. You've given them a great experience, a great service, hopefully, and ultimately they've paid for that service. Now they really should be in your network of friends, and in order to keep them, you've got to keep giving to them. So you've got to keep finding ways to give back to that database, because if you can find ways to keep returning to that database and giving back to them, they'll keep coming back to you, and ultimately you create that, you know, that dedicated sort of brand that people just want to keep coming back to you.
Right.
And I feel like that giving back to them is really important. A lot of the time we give to our clients, we receive. We might feel guilty about how much we received and we never contact them again. But you know, when people pay for their photographs or your artwork or whatever it is that you're selling, they're getting something.
And they value it.
They did, because they wouldn't have paid for it otherwise. When you don't value something, you do not pay for it. You find ways to get out of it. And so if they've paid you, they've given you the greatest compliment. In fact, being paid is the greatest compliment. That's why you should receive that money and say, thank you for valuing my work. Enjoy it for a lifetime that you're going to have it. Know that one day it will be priceless, and give better service and think of something else to give in return. I think if that cycle just keeps going, instead of stopping it and saying, I'm not good enough to get this money, and the guilt and the shame which stops receiving, it just puts people in this incredible negative vortex, and it's so cyclic, and you just see it over and over again. I don't think I'll ever be there again. In fact, I know I'll never be there again, because I know that I didn't overcome it. I went through it. Yeah, like I learned that what I was doing.
Awesome. So we started to kind of shift from personal giving and receiving to the business side. So there's a kind of two different things I want to talk about. One being that regular giving back to your customers, like you said, to existing people, but then using your gift, using your photography perhaps, to give beyond your existing clients.
Well, we have this incredible skill, right? You did help portrait on Saturday.
I did.
So Kenna did help portrait. Jeremy Cowett's help portrait globally is an incredible, and he's a great example of somebody that started, a campaign that ultimately gives back through photography. Yes. I definitely believe in doing charity work. I believe in giving through my business. Interestingly enough, I don't see a separation between receiving in my business and receiving personally, because I believe it's who you are that controls the receiving. So in business, I become more successful when I receive money and get paid giving my gift, which is my work, and I also feel in my personal self that my personal value rises. So I know you did Help Portrait, and I know that people around the world are joining Help Portrait as a give back for free, and giving people portraits, family portraits and such that have never had, some people never even seen a photograph of themselves globally, which I think is beautiful. I started a new campaign in my business to give a shoot to a breast cancer warrior. I did that because of Jill. Am I giving back? Yes. I get to give somebody an incredible shoot every year that hopefully will help one incredible person. You wish you could help everybody, but it does make you feel good. So yeah, I want to always do it. I want to give the gift of a portrait shoot.
And how do you think that? I think it's an amazing thing to be able to do that, change somebody's life one-on-one. And that's sort of what we were doing with Help Portrait as well.
Yes.
But I feel as though the work that you've been doing with breast cancer, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about the shoot that you did last week and the organization that you're working with, just because there's impacting that one person and then there's impacting beyond that.
Every time I go to do something like this, I start thinking, well, I'm helping breast cancer, but maybe I'm not helping enough people. Or what about prostate cancer? Why aren't I bringing awareness to that? And yeah, if I could shoot, I have a whole studio full of men. Next year I will do that. Like, I feel like I want to do at least one thing. So I started to think about it, and I thought, I guess, and again, it's my business, so I keep relating it to my business, but it's a way for my business to give back, it's like campaign marketing. I'm starting a campaign that will help people who need it, that markets my business. Ultimately, that's what it does. Here's the thing, every single point of receiving and giving that we've just talked about involves guilt.
Yep.
Or, involves us saying, well, yeah, that helps your business. And it's like, well, yeah, I could focus on it. Sure, it helps my business. Last time when I went to Paris with Jill, and we made a big deal out of it, and Jill's had nearly 1 million views.
Wow.
And she is been this extraordinary light for breast cancer. Like, she has done talks for Breast Cancer World. She has gone to the Cayman Islands.
Today Show.
3 times on the Today Show. She's been Hoda's choice, guest choice. She is such a bright star for breast cancer sufferers or warriors or fighters or survivors. And, you know, she's just changing so many people. She's doing that. I'm not doing that. I just had the gift of putting her on a platform that does that. So did I change Jill's life? Well, Jill changed mine. So it was a pretty reciprocal thing. And, you know, you can give, but I've got to come back to you. You've got to learn how to receive. If you don't learn to receive, you won't do anything with it. And it's very good to create a campaign where your business can work and make money, but if you're not making money, getting paid, you're not receiving. So you can give as much as you want, but you're not going to survive in business if you're not receiving. So she's going to talk about giving, I'm going to talk about receiving, but really we're a perfect balance of two.
Yeah. So how do you suggest that people go about if they want to utilize some kind of giving campaign for their business, whether that's building awareness or having people see their work? How do you go about working with an organization? How did you go about finding the group that you worked with last week?
I photographed her, and then she has this, Christy Blair, she's Eva's mum, and it turns out that she lost her beautiful mum, Karen, to breast cancer and then had a double mastectomy at 35. It's crazy, this woman is going through this, and she actually, it's quite an amazing triangle, had met Jill through Nikki Klosser, and the three of us, but had never met Jill. And unfortunately, Jill couldn't come up and do the video because she was in hospital last week. But basically, she started a research organization. People are everywhere fighting, campaigning, desperate for, you know, sharing, desperate for Facebook stories, shares, photographs. These people are out there campaigning for illnesses, for life, for, you know, for food, and they're helping people, and they really need help. And a photographer is the ultimate help. I mean, we take incredible photographs, and, you know, we can get on our social media and make a difference for them. You just need to pick an organization that means something to you. If it doesn't mean anything to you, it's harder to tell your story authentically, because you've got to feel it. You can't help people that you're not interested in helping. My plight has always been about women and self-awareness and body awareness. One of the cancer warriors said to me on Wednesday, "Why are you doing this?" She said, "Do you have a personal connection with breast cancer?" And I do not. I have 3 girlfriends currently going through mastectomies, but I've never had anybody in my family had breast cancer. But I'm a photographer of women. For me, this campaign is about body image. It's about having your breast cut off and living, feeling your worth. It's about being good enough no matter what happens to your body. To me, this is everything I do. So I chose a campaign that is very close to my heart, and I want to work through that. So, you know, look at the guy with the pink tutu. That he took a photo of himself in a pink tutu all around the world, and the Pink Tutu project has gone global. There are so many really clever ways for photographers and artists to create an incredible campaign and give back.
How do I not
through
know
their
about
media.
the pink tutu?
Oh, he is.
How do I not know about
So
that?
his wife had a mastectomy, and he is he's a portly guy with a hairy body and a big belly and a beard, and he put a pink tutu on, and he photographed himself all around the world in random places, jumping like a fairy. And he's done calendars and limited edition prints, and I bought one of his limited edition prints that was for a charity auction, and it was incredible. And, you know, you're creatives. Come up with a creative way to give back and make it about something that's really close to your heart. And
Awesome.
I love that.
Yeah. I think I really appreciate your point that it has to mean something to you, because I feel like that's what you talk about a lot for in business as well. If your heart's not in it, you're not going to
get out of it.
Yeah, there you go. If your heart's not in it, get out of it. What other kinds of things have you seen photographers do, or other creatives, that has been an inspiration for you in terms of this whole the art of giving?
I don't want to create a campaign in my studio that just benefits me. So I don't want to be seen as, look, I'm giving this shoot. I would rather create something that other photographers can then also give away, or I would rather start something, not be a campaign. Like, I don't want Sue Bryce to be a campaign. I want every year to be able to give something back in my studio, and I want to think of something clever and smart that will benefit the organisation that I'm choosing to work from. I did a lot of work in the last 10 years with Heart Kids, so it's the Heart Foundation, children with heart defects, and we would do the charity auctions, and we would, my business would always be at their beautiful black tie gala, and that was amazing. And so I see a lot of photographers doing that. It's not just about giving a free portrait shoot, or, because I did go to the nth degree taking Jill to Paris. I mean, it was a huge project, and it happened in a spontaneous moment. It wasn't something we thought out.
Right.
So Nikki and I were talking about it the other day. We don't talk about Paris much, but we work together most days. And I said to Nikki, we were in Paris like a year and a half ago. And she's like, yeah. We started talking about Paris, and she was like, it just came together. It was so magical, and it was such an incredible experience. And
I remember the day.
yeah, and it just
you
happened.
had me in tears.
She emailed me, and we went to Paris, and that was great. Who's inspiring me right now? Jeremy Cowart is, of course, incredible, and he's such an incredible man. He really gives with his heart and soul. I think you know the difference. I think you know when people are giving for the right reasons and when they're not. So sometimes we can just give a little bit more, but yeah, you talk about giving and I want to talk about receiving more.
So let's talk more about receiving.
You've got to understand that there's people out there that want to give back that can't. There's so many people watching us right now that are just saying, I want so much to be able to give a shoot, but right now I can't pay my rent.
Yes. Yes.
And I feel like the more successful I got in my business, the more I wanted to give away. So I will be completely honest and say that when I met Jill and Nikki that day, in my mind, this thing just went, and it said, this is the first time in your life you have savings in your bank that you could give away. That it would be like you're in a perfect position to give something to somebody else and not expect anything back from it. Like, I had had a really big shooting year, and I had traveled and spoken, and I just had a big year. And I hadn't spent any money. And I was living very frugal existence out of a suitcase that year, and I just had savings, and I remember thinking I could give this girl this gift. Like, I could photograph her. It was never meant to be a documentary. That didn't until the next day. And people just started to ring me. I'm coming to Paris. I'm going to run the show. I'm coming to Paris. I'm going to do the hair and makeup. They donated their time, and they paid to go to Paris. I didn't pay for them. I paid for Jill and Nikki and myself. And remember, I won the trip, so I was already going there. Exactly. So it just came to fruition. So sorry, yeah. Yeah,
no. What I'm hearing is, and I know we talk about this a lot as well, but being open and having that open heart, open space for those opportunities to come in.
And you've got to. I teach everybody around me to say thank you. I had a couple of really big turning points in my struggle to make money as a photographer in the earliest part. A photographer came to my house and asked me to do specialised retouching, and I needed that money. I remember doing about 9 hours of work, and which should have been $50 an hour, and I remember it coming to about $400, and this photographer was successful. They could have paid for it in a heartbeat. And when it came time to say, how much do I owe you, I hadn't written an invoice, so I didn't have an invoice prepared. And I really needed the money that day. Like, I remember thinking, and I was like, you know, and I couldn't say it. Like, it's like I'd swallowed a big ball of cotton, and I wanted so much to say, $400. And I couldn't say it. And I remembered standing there in that moment. And, you know, I used to do this thing where I'd say, look, get me next time, and people would go, thanks. And I would just think, no, this is when you say, no, let me pay you. And I say, no, look, really, okay, look, make it 300. And then I would somehow discount it. Oh my gosh, I was standing there and I wanted so much to say, it's $400, it's $400, and I couldn't. And I could just see this moment slipping away, and I was like, I needed that money so badly that week. And I was right there. I was just like, just say it, just say 400. And he turned and he looked at me and he said, no, let me pay you because I value what you do and you're worth it to me. And I felt like he punched me in the face. Like in that moment, he stood there and I said, make it 350. So I met him halfway, which I nearly didn't get paid at all. And when he left, I sat down and cried because somebody had told me my worth. You know, and there's just too many people out there struggling and struggling and struggling, and you focus on the struggle, you're not focused on the receiving, you're not focused on what you're giving. You're just focused on the struggle, and it's kind of like, I've been there, stop struggling. Receive the money, say thank you, give more. Know that if you'd written that invoice, you'd said, thank you, here's your beautiful work, there, that's $400, thank you so much, I look forward to working with you again. And make sure you talk them up on social media, give it back again, make sure, you say, just did an incredible job for this amazing photographer, check out his work on, give them a kickback, like support them in some way. If you can't give back something physical, give back energy, talk about them in a positive light. Whenever you're at I will say, I work with this guy, he's amazing. That comes back to them. And then he's sitting there one day and somebody goes, oh, Sue Bryce told me about you. And he feels pride or whatever. And it's important, not, struggling. Because if he had walked out of there that day, I'd be bagging him all around town. Yeah, he never paid me. Well, whose fault was that? It was my fault. And so, I could think of a million ways to give. Like give by talking nicely about somebody, give by shouting out their work on social media, give by supporting them on social media, give by sharing, give by sending a thank you gift, give by sending them a bouquet of flowers, give by offering them more work. One of our friends here in Seattle has started a business doing massage, and she is amazing. And I have to keep reminding her to text me and say, I'm free for a massage this week, because I always want to have a massage, but I don't necessarily book one. But until she rings me and says, I'm available, I go, oh, well then I'll book you Thursday afternoon then. And then she's just scored a job. But if she stays at home and texts nobody, she doesn't get paid. And it's like, ask, give, receive. And, sometimes you could just text someone and say, thinking about you, it's almost time for a new family portrait. And that's just enough. But give for that reason, that it's just constant. And I want to see a little bit more leaving, receiving, a little bit more of this. Going out, going in, going out, going in. And just every time you take something from somebody, say thank you. Look them in the eye when you receive. Say thank you. Thank you. And then give them something back in from your heart. Like give something back.
And what I'm hearing is not even in that moment, but whenever it is. And can we give a shout out to Shift Massage, Kathy J at Shift Massage.
Because she's an amazing masseuse. And sometimes I have to be reminded to take care of myself. And so I said to her, you need to be texting me every week. I mean, you don't have to text all your clients every week, but ask them, say, would you like a text reminder for your next massage? I mean, when she texts me, the first thing I do is like, make time for a massage. I want a massage. So, and she wants to work. And so many people are just sitting back.
Because we don't value ourselves. We don't think that we're worth people paying us for.
So you just sit there and you don't ask. You don't actively market yourself because you're not. And so I feel like you need to understand marketing is giving. It's you giving a service to the world. It's like, I am a portrait photographer that tries to give women the experience of seeing and feeling their true beauty. That is a gift. Okay, if I'm marketing myself, not everyone wants that, but that's okay. The people that don't want it will just walk on by, and the people that do want it will stop. And you've got to remember, what you're selling is not what you're selling, it's what you're giving. Turn your business into what you're giving. Turn your life into what you're giving, and learn how to receive back Love, money, business, time. Last night, Kenna and I had a conversation about stating what we want for our future, what we want from, our careers, what we want from a future husband, what we want. How often do you state that? This is what I want, this is what I deserve, this is what I would like in my life. Say it with your friends, write it down, burn sage, dance around naked under the full moon, whatever you have to do.
We didn't do that last night.
Yeah, that nudity is optional. Dance around naked under the full moon, say what you have to say, declare it to the universe, put it out there, and give with your heart.
I have one final question for you, Sue, because we're almost out of time. And that is, do you believe that you have to give to yourself before you can give to other people?
If you don't give to yourself, you won't be here to give to other people, and you certainly won't be capable of giving anything. The one thing you won't be able to do is receive anything, because the less you give to yourself, the less you deserve. And the more you think you don't deserve something, the less you're going to receive. Yeah. I feel like the biggest gift I've given myself this year is I have given myself, I've booked out of my studio diary one day a week for a year, and I wrote my VIP client. My most important client is Sue Bryce. That's who, and she is my client on Mondays, and today she's sitting here, but talking to you guys. How lucky am I about giving and receiving? What's my gift? I got a gift here. But the thing is my most important client is Sue Bryce, and I wasn't looking after her. I was not looking after her, and I was not receiving. So she's my important client right now. Kenna, everything starts with you. Yeah. Everything you feel. How can you give when your heart's cold, when you don't feel warmth, when you're struggling? How do you give when you don't think you're worthy of love? And how do you give anybody time and energy when you don't think you're worth it? How do you do that? You can't.
You can't.
And then you just
but that's the biggest
go cold,
and hardest lesson to learn.
Yeah.
But once you learn it,
it's work.
It's work. But look at you. Look at how beautiful you look.
Well, Susan Roderick said it to me. She said on my first Creative Live, she said your clothes had holes in them.
They did.
And the thing is when she said it to me, I kind of thought about what I was wearing, and I was like, oh, I love that top, and I didn't want to throw it away because I loved it so much. But I thought about it, and I was like, because I didn't care. Like, I didn't care how I looked. Like, I was like, I just didn't care. But the truth is, I didn't care as in, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I'll wear clothes with holes in them. I didn't care about myself. Like, I was working 12 to 15 hours a day for 6 years. I was the last person on the list. I never went to the gym. I never ate well. I ate pasta all night so I could eat it till 3 a.m. and then get up early and start again. And when it came down to it, when you turn the light on my personal self with no business, I was the one receiving nothing. And my business was getting incredibly successful, but I was not personally receiving any of it. I wasn't doing anything for myself. And I am my VIP client now.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Give, receive.
Give, receive.
Lots of this.
But make sure that it's all coming from the heart.
You give to yourself first.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, Sue. Well, thank you so much for taking the time on your client Sue Bryce Day. Again, we always love having you here and sharing your insights with the community. Once again, everybody, this is our first day of our 12 days of giving here on Creative Live. Once again, if you're just joining us, we are going to be having a treat for you as celebrating the art of giving, celebrating 12 days of giving here. And if you go to our blog, creativelive.com/blog, you can see the list of everything that is going on every day. We are replaying some of our favorite programs and rebroadcasting those for free in a 24-hour loop. Yeah. I'm excited to see tomorrow. Ramit Sethi is back. We're putting him on. So this is obviously not just photography. This is in so many different aspects of what Creative Live.
Money, right?
It is.
He's the money guy.
Giving and receiving.
Yep.
Also big topics in that workshop. But again, there also will be little treats from different instructors as well, and you'll find those daily on the blog. So everybody, Thank you again for joining us here at Creative Live. We strongly believe here in the gift of education. Talk about giving to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yep.
And so everyone, we will see you next time, but please, I was going to say, please help me give a round of applause to Miss Sue Bryce, because that's what I always say. But we'll see you next time. Thank you, Sue.
Merry Christmas,
Thank you.
everyone.
Happy holidays.